what is going on with Aliko Dangote's refinery?
Ongoing issues surrounding the Dangote Refinery.
Things that other people cannot do, they are disturbing the person who is doing it.
The president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote.
Whatever is going on between the regulators and Dangote Refinery is bad optics for Nigeria.
Aliko Dangote, the richest man in Africa, started a huge project to build a $19.5 billion refinery and petrochemicals complex in Nigeria. This refinery, with a capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, was supposed to stop Nigeria's reliance on imported fuel and transform the country's economy by saving billions of dollars and creating thousands of jobs. However, Dangote's efforts have faced many challenges from both Nigerian regulatory bodies and international oil companies. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has been particularly obstructive, accusing the refinery of producing substandard diesel and raising concerns about monopolistic practices. These claims have been disputed by Dangote, who believes there are vested interests and corruption within the regulatory body. This situation highlights the difficulties Nigerian businesses, especially those in the manufacturing sector, face. Dangote's refinery project is groundbreaking. It is the largest single-train refinery in the world, designed to meet Nigeria's refining needs and export fuel to the rest of Africa. The project has brought significant investment back to Nigeria and has the potential to save the country vast amounts of money spent on fuel imports. Last year alone, Nigeria spent 12 trillion naira, about $8 billion, on petroleum product imports, making up 33% of total imports. Nigerians were shocked when the CEO of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, declared that fuel importation would continue to prevent a monopoly. Ahmed criticized Dangote and other local refineries, claiming their diesel was of inferior quality due to high sulfur content compared to imported diesel. He asserted that imported diesel contains 50 parts per million of sulfur, whereas local products range between 650 and 1,200 parts per million. Ahmed also argued that Dangote's refinery, which had been selling diesel and aviation fuel locally and abroad, was not fully licensed and was only 45% complete. He claimed that Dangote sought to monopolize the market by requesting all diesel orders be directed to his refinery. However, these arguments are unconvincing, given that the NNPC has invested almost 4 billion naira in refurbishing its 4 non-functional refineries. Additionally, the BUA Group is constructing a 220,000 barrels per day refinery in Akwa Ibom, and several modular refineries are operational. So far, 25 refining licenses have been issued, and Midol Refinery recently started building a 100,000 barrels per day refinery in Lagos. International oil companies, IOCs, have also hindered Dangote's refinery project. These companies have reportedly refused to sell crude oil to the refinery unless Dangote pays high premiums. This has forced Dangote to import crude from countries like the United States and Brazil, complicating the project's logistics and financial viability.
The Dangote Refinery has denied reports that it was reselling cargoes of crude oil bought from the United States and Nigeria to other traders.
The reluctance of IOCs to support local refining efforts shows their interest in maintaining control over Nigeria's crude oil exports and imports. By doing this, they ensure their continued dominance in the market, often at the expense of local economic development. Internal politics and corruption make the situation worse. Nigerian government officials, influenced by personal gain and external pressures, have been slow to support initiatives that threaten established interests. Dangote himself has expressed frustration with the bureaucratic hurdles and lack of support from the government, despite his project's potential to significantly benefit the country's economy.
In the refinery, we did not, and I repeat, we did not collect one single incentive from the federal government of Nigeria or from even the Lagos State of Nigeria. Yes, Lagos State, maybe they gave us a good deal, but we paid $100 million for the land. It wasn't a free land, we paid for it.
This internal resistance is not unique to Nigeria. Across Africa, political instability, corruption, and short-term thinking undermine long-term development projects. Leaders often prioritize personal and political gains over national interests, leading to a cycle of underdevelopment. Comparing Nigeria's situation with other countries that have successfully transformed their economies shows clear differences. South Korea, for example, became a global economic powerhouse due to government support for family-owned conglomerates like Samsung and Hyundai. These companies thrived because of special loans, subsidies, and tax incentives from the state, enabling them to compete globally. Similarly, countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Taiwan have successfully transitioned from agrarian economies to major manufacturing hubs through supportive government policies and strategic investments in key industries. China, despite its communist roots, has also fostered significant economic growth by encouraging entrepreneurship and private sector development. To understand why Africa is not developing as expected, we need to look at its history. For many years, European countries ruled over African nations, drawing borders that split communities and creating economies that only served European interests. When African countries gained independence, they were left with difficult challenges, such as building strong nations and economies from these divided pieces. During the Cold War, Western and Eastern countries competed for influence in Africa. They often supported corrupt leaders who favored their interests rather than those who promoted true development. This external interference set the stage for ongoing problems in governance and economic stability. For Africa to overcome its developmental challenges, a multifaceted approach is required. Firstly, African governments must prioritize creating a stable and supportive regulatory environment that encourages local and foreign investments. This involves tackling corruption, ensuring political stability, and implementing policies that foster economic diversification and industrialization. Secondly, there needs to be a shift in the relationship between African countries and Western powers. African nations should negotiate fairer terms in their dealings with international corporations, ensuring that the extraction of resources benefits local economies. This might involve revisiting contracts, improving transparency, and strengthening legal frameworks to hold foreign entities accountable. Thirdly, African leaders must recognize the importance of supporting local entrepreneurs and industries. As seen in the Dangote case, local initiatives can have transformative impacts on national economies if given the necessary support. Governments should provide incentives such as tax breaks, subsidies, and access to finance to encourage local manufacturing and processing industries. Lastly, there must be a concerted effort to build regional cooperation and integration. By fostering regional markets and reducing trade barriers within Africa, countries can create larger, more competitive markets that attract investment and drive economic growth. Western countries and international companies continue to exploit Africa economically. They extract resources like oil at very low costs, giving little benefit to local economies. This is especially clear in the oil industry, where multinational companies control the extraction and export of oil, leaving African countries with minimal profits and serious environmental damage. Nigeria, the largest oil producer in Africa, is a prime example. Despite its oil wealth, Nigeria struggles with corruption, poor management, and a lack of infrastructure. Western oil companies, in collaboration with local elites, have created a cycle of dependency and exploitation, preventing the country from using its resources for its own development. The saga of Aliko Dangote's refinery in Nigeria is a microcosm of the broader challenges facing African development. It highlights how external exploitation, internal political dynamics, and corruption can stifle progress, even in the face of immense potential. However, it also underscores the resilience and potential of African entrepreneurs who, despite numerous obstacles, continue to strive for the betterment of their countries. By addressing these challenges head-on and learning from the successes of other nations, Africa can pave the way for a more prosperous and equitable future. The path to development is fraught with difficulties, but with determination, strategic planning, and genuine support for local initiatives, the continent can realize its full potential. The historical context of Africa's underdevelopment is rooted in the colonial era, where European powers established economic structures that prioritized extraction over development. This legacy has persisted, with many African countries remaining dependent on the export of raw materials rather than developing value-added industries. The economic models imposed by colonial powers did not focus on creating local industries or infrastructure, which left African economies vulnerable and underdeveloped. The persistence of this exploitative model is evident in the actions of modern Western powers and multinational corporations. These entities often engage in practices that prioritize their profits over the development of the local economies. For instance, in the oil sector, multinational corporations extract crude oil at low costs, while African countries import refined products at higher prices, leading to a significant outflow of capital and limiting local industrial growth. Another critical aspect of Western exploitation is the role of debt and aid. Many African countries are burdened with high levels of debt, often incurred from loans provided by Western financial institutions and governments. These loans come with stringent conditions that require countries to implement economic policies that favor the interests of creditors, often at the expense of local development. Foreign aid, while ostensibly aimed at helping development, often reinforces dependency. Aid is frequently tied to purchasing goods and services from donor countries, which limits the effectiveness of aid in fostering local industries and self-sufficiency. Furthermore, aid can create a dependency mindset among political leaders, reducing the incentive to pursue policies that promote sustainable economic growth. Corruption is a significant barrier to development in Africa, exacerbated by both internal and external factors. Internally, corruption is fueled by weak governance structures, lack of transparency, and limited accountability. Externally, multinational corporations and foreign governments often engage in corrupt practices to secure favorable terms for their investments, further entrenching corruption within the political system. The Dangote Refinery saga illustrates how corruption can derail significant development projects. Despite the potential benefits of the refinery, vested interests within the government and competing businesses have created obstacles that hinder its progress. This corruption not only affects individual projects, but also deters potential investors who fear the instability and unpredictability of the business environment. For Africa to break free from the cycle of underdevelopment, comprehensive institutional reforms are necessary. These reforms should focus on strengthening governance structures, improving transparency, and enhancing accountability. Anti-corruption measures must be robust and enforced consistently to build trust in the system and attract both local and foreign investment. Institutional reform should also include the development of policies that promote economic diversification and industrialization. By moving away from reliance on raw material exports and developing local industries, African countries can create more stable and resilient economies. This requires investment in infrastructure, education, and technology to support industrial growth. Regional integration is another critical factor in promoting development in Africa. By creating larger markets and reducing trade barriers, regional integration can enhance economic cooperation and increase competitiveness. The African Continental Free Trade Area is a significant step in this direction, aiming to create a single market for goods and services across the continent. Regional integration can also help address some of the challenges associated with small and fragmented markets. By pooling resources and coordinating policies, African countries can attract larger investments and benefit from economies of scale. This can lead to more significant infrastructure projects, improved access to markets, and enhanced economic stability. Investing in education and human capital is crucial for Africa's development. A well-educated and skilled workforce is essential for industrialization and economic growth. Education systems must be reformed to focus on skills development, technical training, and innovation. By fostering a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation, African countries can create a more dynamic and competitive economy. Human capital development also involves improving health and social services. A healthy population is more productive and capable of contributing to economic growth. Investments in healthcare, sanitation, and social welfare can significantly improve the quality of life and economic potential of the population. Inclusive development ensures that the benefits of economic growth are shared broadly across the population. This involves addressing inequality, promoting social justice, and ensuring that marginalized groups have access to opportunities. Inclusive development is not only a moral imperative, but also a practical one, as widespread poverty and inequality can undermine social stability and economic progress. Policies should be designed to promote equitable access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. Social safety nets and targeted interventions can help lift people out of poverty and reduce inequality. By fostering inclusive development, African countries can build more cohesive and resilient societies. The case of Dangote's refinery in Nigeria highlights both the obstacles and opportunities in this journey. Despite significant hurdles, the potential benefits of such projects are immense, offering lessons for other African countries. With determination, vision, and the right policies, Africa can overcome its development challenges and unlock its full potential.